What's up, guys? Future Travis here. Just letting you guys know we had a little bit of an audio issue on the Elbows Tight podcast side during this interview. Luckily, our guest still sounds great, so hopefully it's not too bad to where you don't want to listen for us. We greatly appreciate you guys and hope you enjoy. Thanks. What's up, guys? John and Travis here with a fantastic episode of Elbows Tight Podcast. We have a very special guest today on this episode. His name is Jordan
Rabe.
Rabe. He is a purple belt under André Galvao. Is that how you say his last name?
Yep.
Yeah, I always mess up his last name because he just said it kind of differently in the episode. But he's a purple belt under him. He's down in Venice Beach, California, and it is a great episode. He just took third place at World's Masters, and he is a very unique person when it comes to jiu-jitsu in my eyes. He's a smaller guy. He weighs in at 145, 142, something like that. So he's a lightweight or flyweight, and then he also competes in light flyweight a little bit also. But his episode is great because he goes deep into the mentality of jiu-jitsu and the way he competes and whatnot, right, John?
Yeah, I took a lot out of that. It was nice to hear how someone gets ready for it, make sure they're going to meet the weight, how they go about it.
Yeah, it was really, really good. So everything for him is going to be down in the description below. Also, don't forget, we have our patches. If you guys want to buy a patch, please let me know. Everything will be down in the description below for that also. And check out our websites, elbowstight.com, Elbows Podcast on everywhere you look, YouTube page, everything. We're having some extra content coming out here soon. So John and I are going to be giving you guys more on our YouTube page and podcast, and we got a whole bunch of people lined up also. But this is Jordan's episode, so if you guys want to check him out, once again, everything will be down in the description below. Hit him up on Instagram. He has a super slick single leg defense to knee bar. It's incredible. We actually talk about it and how he went viral because of it. It's pretty funny. So hopefully you guys enjoy this episode. And John, you got anything else?
Nope. Enjoy it.
All right, guys. Catch you later. Thanks. Bye. Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Elbows Tight Podcast. It's your host, Travis and John. John, how you doing today?
As good as I can be. How you doing?
I'm doing good. Using both arms to drink this cup of coffee.
Yeah. I was struggling to put on the headphones. I was like, I wonder if he's watching this. Trying to get one on, one on the other. Whatever.
Yeah. If you guys don't know, we'll probably talk about it in the intro too. But if John looks broke, it's because he's not broke now. Now he's actually fixed, and he's just recovering from it. But today we have a very special guest. Go ahead and introduce yourself there, Jordan.
Yeah. Hello, everyone. My name is Jordan Rabe. I am a purple belt at Autore Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu here in Los Angeles, out of Hollywood. I'm 30 years old. I've been training for almost 6 years now. Recently placed third at Masters Worlds at light featherweight, Masters 1. And yeah, I love jiu-jitsu. That's why I'm here.
Well, I appreciate you coming on, man. So you said you've been training for about 6 years, right?
Yes, sir.
And so what initially got you into jiu-jitsu? We did a little bit of research on you, found some information. So you started off in wrestling in high school, then went over to college, tried to do a little bit more wrestling, but that's when you found jiu-jitsu, right?
Correct. Yeah. So, like I said, even back before then, before I got into wrestling, I had dreams as a kid. Doing some sort of martial arts, whether that was like kickboxing, and eventually mixed martial arts. So that's where, like, I was a kid. I was like, okay, I don't really like karate. Going back in high school, I'm like, okay, what's the closest thing I can get myself prepped to have a potential MMA career? So started wrestling, really loved it, did semi-decent. And then after high school, went to a JC in San Luis Obispo called Cuesta College. I tried a season there, but at the time I was in a band and just going to school full time, so stopped for a little bit. Then after college, I got my bachelor's degree in kinesiology, which helps greatly in jiu-jitsu for me. But started training full time at Paragon Jiu-Jitsu in San Luis Obispo, and haven't stopped since. So I started 2016, and basically have been training ever since, and did a few tournaments here and there, and finally started getting good at some point. Pretty
So,
cool how that works, right?
Yeah, right. Especially when you have like a little bit of a grappling experience in the
Yes.
background. Do you feel like that transferred over into your jiu-jitsu right away?
Oh, 100%. It's one of the things I tell people like when I do train with them, like, dude, like, how do you move so well? And I always chalk it back up to wrestling, because I started wrestling when I was 14 years old, learned how to do double leg, single leg, everything. And then also just learning understanding how to move a body around and also scramble. I feel like that also carries into my jiu-jitsu, where it wasn't as helpful in wrestling, but it applies better in jiu-jitsu. But yeah, with that wrestling background, I feel like just body awareness in general, you know where you're at regardless. And I had 4 years of that going into white belt. So having that understanding of the body, learning how to move around, great brownie points for a white belt.
I bet he was a killer, right? White belt, no stripes.
Oh, man.
Everybody's probably like, "Oh, this new guy."
Have you seen videos of him
Yeah,
going?
yeah.
Like you're super fast as it is. Like, and the one thing that I noticed right away when I watched some of your blue belt tape, and I was like, what am I doing? Like, I am terrible at jiu-jitsu as a blue
Especially
belt, man.
even singles and doubles. Right?
Yeah,
It's
bro.
I'm like, come on, man, I can never get that. They're like, that does not look smooth. Like, I know.
Yeah.
So what was white belt Jordan like? Did you have that wrestling mentality that we see a lot in, wrestlers going into jiu-jitsu, where it was like 110% every class, every person you're trying to roll with was like wrestling practice? Was that kind of like what you were like when you first started?
Yeah, precisely.
To
To the point to where I was almost injuring myself every practice.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, like where they're like, hey, like you can chill out a little bit. And just because in wrestling, I feel like it's always offense. You always need to attack. Like when you're on bottom, you need to get out, you need to attack. So I could dial it down back a little bit more now. But yeah, when you have that aggressiveness in wrestling, it just translates to where like you're in a position. You need to squeeze as hard as you can to get in the next position. Whereas, yeah, I feel like you can't be passive in wrestling, whereas it's okay in jiu-jitsu. And I feel like jiu-jitsu, like not to shit on jiu-jitsu and or wrestling, but it's like jiu-jitsu's wrestling for older people. I guess, yeah, more passive type of wrestling, I guess, with clothes.
No, that's definitely. I agree. I wouldn't throw the old person in there because I'm the same age as you, and I started a little bit later. But
Yeah.
but like
I'm fine with it.
Yeah, it's definitely true. Like I wrestled a very little bit my freshman year in high school, and I definitely felt that body awareness transferred over very well into jiu-jitsu. Especially, I think you and I have a very similar background. I skateboarded growing up. I wrestled a little bit. Love pop punk, like all that stuff, right? And so I definitely felt like skateboarding and then just being an active kid really translated over into jiu-jitsu. And
For sure.
It's cool because when you roll with someone, like especially the more experience you get, you can instantly tell when someone has grappling experience. You're like, oh, okay, I guess this is going to get kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Like
For
what was that first class like for you when you first walked in and you wrapped that white belt around your waist and got into it?
Well, so should we chalk it up to my first initial jiu-jitsu class?
Yeah,
absolutely.
It was very interesting. Like even before I stepped on the jiu-jitsu mat, I had YouTubed. I mean, I've been like a fan of jiu-jitsu for a while, even like high school wrestling, but just never officially took a class. So I knew what a guillotine was. I knew what a triangle choke was, and rear naked choke and whatnot. But I even before my first class, I YouTubed how to tie a belt. And I still tie my belt the same exact way. It was Henry Gracie. He has like 4 different ways, and the way I do it, he calls it the movie star or something. So
the Hollywood tie?
The Hollywood, is that like where you turn around
Hollywood,
and there's like no overlap?
Yeah.
I tie my belt like that every single time I roll. But anyways, I felt like I had a really good mental preparation for my first jiu-jitsu class. So walked in, I knew some techniques, and also obviously just had my wrestling to fall back on. So definitely got humbled for sure, because was not used to not leading with my head all the time. So I got loop choked over and over and over, legit, I think like at least 10 times that day. And but still had like some really good like top movement. But first day was definitely humbling, and I had that mat bug, that jiu-jitsu bug, where I was like, I need to learn more. And then went home, YouTubed every single technique video, how to do any type of submission, and would favorite all of them. And I still have them in my YouTube like playlists too, which is funny. But I just spent a lot of time like after my first class too, just trying to soak up as much jiu-jitsu as possible and be good at it.
When did you start competing jiu-jitsu after your first?
It was the first year, I think within like 7 months or so, at the U.S. Open it was in Santa Monica, but it was BJJ Stars. I think that's who runs it.
Were you doing
basically same rules as IBJJF, but yeah, I think it's BJJ Tours, I believe, is what it's called actually.
Was that at 145? At that
I
time?
did 152, so featherweight. 154. But I've always bounced between like in high school I wrestled as a freshman 119s, then 125s, 130s, and also stayed within like 125, 130. And even now, like I go up, I think featherweight's like my max I'll ever go, but I also really like fighting open weight because that shit's fun. But yeah, featherweight, light feather's my weight class.
So that's a relatively light group, especially for like being a masters. Do you have a lot of competition in that weight class, or is it 4 or 5 guys when you compete locally and at masters?
There's surprisingly always a lot of guys in like for sure feather, a little bit less in light feather, but I did San Diego 5 grappling in June or July. I had 30 guys or 25,
wow.
30 guys.
And
at Masters Worlds, I had 26.
Wow, that's sorry, go ahead.
No, yeah, typically like around, I want to say at least 20 to 30.
That's actually that's way more than I thought that would be at that weight, because I feel like the older you get, obviously, the heavier you get, and the most people I see is that like 160 to like 185, those weight brackets, like that's where I see like the most like when you competed that one time, that was probably pretty stacked because you jumped up to 200.
I went to 195, but I went in at 181.
Mm-hmm.
But like our friends that compete at like 175 ish, like they're completely stacked.
Yeah,
like 40, 50.
Yeah, that shit sucks.
I'm in a men's bracket, so it's not a lot of people.
Yeah, you're like, I have 7 fights to get to quarterfinals.
Yeah. So what is your let's jump over into your like competition mentality a little bit. When you are competing, especially at like a stage like Worlds, Masters, Worlds, what is it like in between matches and then walking up to the mat to actually grapple?
It's, I feel like most people tend to kind of psych themselves out when it comes to competing. For myself, I actually got it from a podcast that I was listening to with John Danaher, I believe.
Oh, yeah.
He was talking about the plank parable. Do you remember hearing that? Like, he talks about a wooden plank. And it's like a teacher and some kids. Has a wooden plank on just the floor, the grass. And he's talking about these kids, life lessons, and he's just like, all right, so kids, watch this. Walks across a wooden plank. The kids are like, cool, great. Let's say it's like 20 feet long. This teacher gets the same plank, puts it on top of like 2 high buildings, walks across the same plank, and all these kids are like, oh my goodness, that's incredible. Takes it back down, talks to the kids, like, hey, he's like, what was different? Like, you're just at like a different height. He's like, yeah, but the plank was still the same. So what John Danaher was talking about, that was the plank is basically jiu-jitsu, the match, and everything else. And nothing changed but the perspective and everything surrounding it. So what I take from that is when I walk on the mat, it's the same exact thing going to practice and training your ass off. So I try to get myself in the position where I'm like, when I'm walking to the mat, it's just like when my coach says, all right, tie your belts, find a new partner, 5-minute goes, let's go, 3, 2, 1, fight. And I feel like as of recently, at least the past 3 years, I've been doing a great job at that by putting myself in a comfortable space mentally and just kind of clouding out and drowning out everything else around, like the lights, the cameras, everything else on like the overhead speakers, the music, and just try to chalk it up in that moment. And I do that by listening to music. Like I feel like music's a really, really good powering force just to get my head right and just overall emotion and feeling within the moment. So I tend to listen. I grew up listening to R&B, hip hop, every type of music. I was in a pop punk band for a bit too. Went to hardcore shows, but I feel like what gets me in the zone is like hip hop, R&B stuff, like stuff I could dance to. Because when I dance, I know I'm comfortable. I could have fun. So there's often times where like I just plug in and I'm just milli rocking, doing my thing, doing the Dougie, and just having fun. You know, like I feel like when I'm having fun in the moment, I'll do well. And every time I do that, regardless of the outcome of the match, I know like I was there in the moment and I'm having fun. So I do my best to put myself in the position to where I'm not stressed out about anything and just legitimately having fun. And that's, I feel like I translates well in my jiu-jitsu. I'm like pretty risky, but I'm having fun with it, you know.
I think that's,
sorry, long story short.
No,
I like to have fun.
No, I think that's a great thing because we talk to a lot of people and their mentality of going into competitions. We actually just talked to Arthur Ruff, who is a black belt world champ. He did a seminar just at our school, very simple, and he was talking about how his last competition, he's like 42. He went in there very mellow, relaxed, right? And he got his ass kicked the entire time. Right, he's all like, so now I know, don't go in there, be that killer. Like I can't. He's like, I can't be the chill person, relaxing and whatnot. And we hear a lot of people talk about like they have to be in the zone, you know, like straight faced. And so it's good hearing that someone's like, no, man, I go in there, I'm like, I want to chill, I'm going to have fun, and then just roll. You know that. So it's definitely a new perspective that I don't think a lot of people actually have. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I don't want to say like I'm like super chill and like, all right, well let's like I want to like it's definitely like a good middle ground, you know.
Yeah.
But I want to say definitely more like on the spectrum. So say like right here is the zone, or everyone's like I need to be right here, maybe even like more aggressive. But I'm like more on like the left side tier or wherever this side is on your screen, you know, like right in the middle of that where I'm still in the moment and just enough to where I can still think well, like especially on my feet, and so where I'm not too chill, where I can still think clearly, and just like.
So in your matches, John loves this question, do you go for points or do you go for submissions, and how do you know if you're losing or not?
I tend to go for submissions. I know if I'm losing, if I hate bottom. I hate playing bottom. But if I also feel like I watch the clock every once in a while too to see where I'm at if I am. But I do try to go for the finish. I love taking the back. I feel like having that wrestling background and taking someone's back was the most familiar thing for me. So any moment I could expose it back or take someone's back, I know, regardless of the points or situation, or let's say that points is in the situation, I know if I have the back, I have like a pretty substantial amount of points racked up, I hope. But also I'm in the best position to finish as well. So just why I like being in the back, regardless of whatever system or whatever rule set. If I'm in the back, I'm going to finish you, at least I have a high percentage of finishing you. So that's why I like to finish. At least get into the back. Yeah.
It's less to think about. You don't have to worry about points. Like,
and same thing in wrestling too. I wrestled freestyle and Greco, and I wouldn't like the points. I would, at least in freestyle and Greco, if you get a suplex on someone for 5 points and their back lands flat, you finish the entire match. So
isn't that called technical? Or
what was that?
Is that called technical? Like you
tech fall? Yeah,
tech fall, yeah.
Tech fall. So yeah, in freestyle, like every time I'd go out, I would try to, from standing, like hit a pass by, lock up at the waist, go for a 5. Because I just feel like I'm a lazy person in general, and like I'd rather finish a match like that.
Well, I was just thinking the same thing.
Points.
Energy management. I want this over as fast as possible.
Exactly. Like finish it. Like shake your hands, finish a match, go on to your next one, or go home and eat.
Yes.
Like,
Yeah,
not enough hours in the day to do shit.
Oh man, and that's like a quick comment on that. Like that's kind of why I'm like I don't really want to. I haven't competed yet. I was thinking probably this coming year will be the year that I actually do it. I have a baby coming in March too.
Congrats, man.
Thank you. I have a 1-year-old, a 13-year-old, and one on the way. So it's like I'm pretty busy, but like the whole idea of like spending hours at a competition, I'm like that just doesn't sound attractive to me. You know what I mean? Like. So if I were to compete, yeah, it'd be the same thing. Like energy management, I'm trying to go for like that finish the whole time. But I say that now, but everything changes when you step on the mat, right? Yeah. So when you were walking into your first competition, what was your mindset, and did that change when you stepped on the mat? Compared to now, yeah.
Yeah, I was definitely a kid who was always in his own head, like worried about outcome, worried about who's watching. About everything else that wasn't important in the moment. Yeah, I feel like I would always try to find some way out. I guess it's weird. I love competing, but also like when I'm getting there, I'm like, okay, what's the best excuse to get out of here right now? Like, you know what I mean? It's just those nerves that creep up. You're like, oh, am I really being vulnerable right now to a point like to where I can get pinned and like embarrassed? But like time after time, like even wrestling and jiu-jitsu, you're gonna lose. You have to lose. No one's ever been undefeated. At least I don't think. But that's honest. It's funny because people are like, oh, you win and then you learn, and you also have that opposite side. Like, well, no, like you definitely lose. Like losing's a thing, but you actually do learn. I feel like even at Masters World, it's like I always watch my tape. I'm always looking at what I can do, even listening to my coaches of what I can do. Or if I'm in a position that I'm not familiar with, I'll talk to my coaches and I'm like, hey, I was stuck in 50-50. How the hell do I get out of this? But yeah, I feel like I've definitely learned to just be in the moment more often, like whether that's in jiu-jitsu or even just like taking time away from everything else and just being in the moment. Yeah, versus just getting in your head, worried about the outcome, worried about what's going on in your life at the moment, worried about like making weight for the next tournament. Yeah, being present in the moment and yeah, trying to choke your person out.
That's to kind of we talked to Jason Khalifa. He's the 2008 CrossFit Games champion, and he has a book called The AMREP Mentality. And during his interview, he talks about that quite a bit, actually, of his AMREP mentality is being present in the moment. And jiu-jitsu is like literally the perfect example of being present in the moment. Because if you're not, you're going to get choked, right? If you're not, you're going to get taken down and whatnot. So was it just over time that you transferred it? Or was there a moment at like a competition or something where it kind of was like, look, dude, I need to get out of my own head and just freaking and be present right now?
Definitely over time. Yeah. I guess it's just repeated, like lesson after lesson after lesson. You're like, okay, what can I do better after this outcome of this tournament or this role? And you just kind of start checking off boxes. Like, okay, I did this, I could do this better, or I could train myself to do this better. And also I think supplementing and like getting into yoga, meditation, and just being a little bit more spiritual, I feel like I've been able to, just toss out all the bullshit and really focus in and hone in to the exact moment. Or even just like going to practice, for instance, like I try my best to put my phone away and like really absorb the technique. Or even just being at the gym, like I'm like, all right, this is jiu-jitsu time. Let me hang out with my jiu-jitsu friends that are here. Let's learn some technique. Let's have fun within our group and just soak that all in, because we get like 2 hours of training at max, so just soaking in the energy of whoever's there, soaking in the jiu-jitsu, really trying to understand that technique, whether that's drilling before and also after what we have learned. I just feel like you fill your head up with so much jiu-jitsu, and that just kind of stays with you. And I just throughout time, I just feel like at least throughout time, I've just learned to just be more in the moment, to to the point to where it's not even a thing I have to think about now, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So you mentioned, go ahead, John.
I wanted to ask you real quick. I was listening to one of your older podcasts. I think when you were doing it a couple years ago, and you were on your way to a competition and you were sick. I wanted to know, did you make weight? Because you said you were like, I think you said you were 153 pounds or 154. You were 2 weeks away. And you wanted to get to the 145 weight class. And I was like, is he going to be able to do that in 2 weeks? So then I was thinking, how do you cut weight? What do you do to cut weight?
Yeah, that's so funny. I was doing a podcast called Skin and Bones with my buddy. Do you remember what year that was?
It was
2018. I think it's literally your first episode. It says I had a stuffy nose at the beginning of the description.
Yeah, right. Now, I was going deep. I went way
Y'all
back.
were digging. That's
bro. Hey, look, we research people when they come on the show. You know what I mean? Because we don't want to be one of those guys that like.
Matter of fact, you
trained jiu-jitsu?
You were returning 4 dogs that you were dog sitting. And you were driving, I want to say, from Santa Monica.
Oh, you know what? I think I'm...
You were driving a 2009.
Yeah, you're on the 101.
Honestly, I don't remember that tournament or not. Probably didn't make it. No, just kidding. I've always made weight, except for one time in high school, and I learned to always make weight after that.
That's why I want to know what do you do to cut weight,
and how much weight do you cut too?
Sure. So I cut down to light feather, which in the gi is 141.5 pounds. Typically, gis are like 3 to 4.5 pounds at most, I think. But my gi was like 4 pounds, so I had to get down to like 136. 2 weeks before, I was like maxing out like 148-ish, maybe. So it's not that bad of a cut, maybe 12-ish pounds. But what I do is I try to get as much exercise in as possible, and also just monitor my intake. And I know just from wrestling forever, I guess throughout high school and college, water or just liquids weighs the most out of anything. Also, salt is probably your worst friend because salt attracts water. So when I am, I guess, cutting weight or prepping for a competition, highly monitoring just intake of liquids, solids. But I'm also making sure what I am putting in my body is beneficial for training. So mostly water. I mean, I work in coffee. I always drink coffee, at least 2 cups a day. But even monitoring that, and also always checking your weight. I have a pretty decent scale that I got off of Amazon. It also tells me some body composition, which is pretty cool. But anyways, always checking my weight, whether that's like in the morning, after I poop, at night. And my weight fluctuates at least like 5 pounds a day, whether that's just like food consumption and also, going to the bathroom. But when I train, I'm at least sweating 3 pounds at least to sometimes like 8 pounds, depending on how hard my training is. So when you incorporate how much you're losing, at least how much is, for the most part, water weight, how much water weight you are losing, just also consider how much you're putting back in your body. So for the past 2 weeks, or the 2 weeks leading up to Masters Worlds, just monitoring my weight up and down. I would know, I'm like, okay, Monday, I'm going to train at 6 a.m., going for comp training at 3 p.m., do some drilling 5 p.m. until class starts at 6. And then I'll have a day of sweating off 10 pounds, So, knowing how many times I'm training that day and roughly estimating how much weight I will be losing, and just tapering down. So I want to say within like the 5 days leading up, I wanted to get within 5 pounds of that weight class. So I was like, okay, before 2 days before the tournament, I want to make weight. So I'll be able to eat a little bit, and also I'll feel okay at least having some substance in my body. And so when leading up, let's just say, for example, Masters Worlds, I had to incorporate travel time too, and also if I had anywhere to train and or sweat. And luckily, I had a friend in Boulder City where I got to train in the morning, sweat off good 3 pounds, and I was under 1.5 pounds. So I went home, I stepped on the scale with my cans of water and oatmeal. I was like, okay, can I make weight? held everything. I'm like, perfect. I can have a cup of coffee.
Yeah.
And so I went into, I drove to the convention center, checked my weight. I was still like half a pound under, so held my Gatorade. I'm all, can I drink some of this? And turns out I was able to drink half of it and felt wonderful. So just monitoring everything to the T up until I had to weigh in. So that's how strategic I am as far as cutting weight.
That's some serious stuff. You're going to get on the scale with your drink to see if you can. I just remember going into a competition, and all my friends that do it, that's something they really worry about is the weight class, and they're worrying about it like 2 months before the competition.
Mm-hmm. It's stressful.
Some of them, they were exhausted. They made the weight, but they had no energy in the match. And I was like,
you definitely have to do it right. At least you just have to be nice to yourself too, and like not overly stressed. But I do agree. Making weight and maintaining weight is probably one of the most stressful things when it comes to competing. Because if you don't make weight, you can't win or lose. You're immediately DQ'd.
You just lost your mind.
And I feel like that's not really talked about a lot. You're like, oh shit. Like, honestly, I feel like I get my anxiety is super, super high when it comes to maintaining that weight. Which I feel like if you're in a weird middle, go a weight above. Don't put that pressure on yourself and just do it. But I feel like I'm in such a weird middle ground where I'm like, okay, I'll just cut an extra 5 pounds. And I've also been doing it for a while. So I feel like I'm comfortable enough to cut down a little bit. But if it's, in my opinion, just go up and weight. You'll be fine. You need the energy. That's the shittiest part. You're like, cool, I've made weight. Let's fight. And you're like, cool, you're struggling on like a fucking Toriando or some shit. That shouldn't happen. You should have energy to fight.
Yeah.
So yeah, if in my opinion, if anyone is seeking like, oh, should I cut weight? Just go up and weight. You'll be fine. At least start training more to a point to where you're like, okay, I only need to cut maybe 3-4 pounds, and then consider it. But if you're like, I want to cut 15 pounds and make lightweight, no, just fight up. And then just train accordingly to the people that you're going to fight at that weight.
I think it was Benjamin Franklin that said, "Failing to prepare is preparing to fail." Right?
Yes.
Like it seems like you have a regimen, and you're like very like, this is where I need to be. This is what I need to do. Right? A lot of people, I feel, when they, especially our friends, no offense to them, the ones that are stressing about cutting weight are because they're not preparing to cut weight. Right? It's kind of like, oh crap, the competition's in 2 weeks. I should probably step on the scale and make sure that I'm doing good. Right? You need to have that whole like work up here. That's why, anyone that's a professional fighter or grappler or anything like that, right? They have a camp. It's like 6 weeks to get down to the weight. It's not like, oh crap, the fight's in 2 weeks. I should probably, or it's in 3 days. I should probably start distilling water and wrapping myself up in a sweatsuit. You know what I mean? Because that's just not gonna, that's not gonna help. You know what I mean?
Sure. Yeah.
So you mentioned a lot about coffee. Is that that's your beverage of the day, right? We didn't even talk about beverage of the day yet.
Yeah. Beverage of the day, coffee.
So when you drink coffee, do you drink it before practice, after practice? Like, do you use it as like a pre-workout? Like,
actually, yeah. For the most part, it's coffee's my pre-workout for life. Honestly, yeah, caffeine in general. I work in coffee, specialty coffee. I'm a manager of a coffee shop here in Venice Beach called Little Lunch Coffee. Shout out. I also have my own coffee clothing brand called Out Glory. But yeah, anyways, back to coffee. It is, pretty much. So yeah, I guess I'll just tell you my daily regimen. I wake up.
Perfect.
Whether if I'm working, I'll always have like morning coffee before I start my shift, or I'll go to a local coffee shop just around the corner from my house. Whether I'm working or I have training that day, I always have coffee before, whether it's like 1 or 2 cups, but also supplement with water too. And I also try to keep my training regimen, same with like, sorry, my brain's just going everywhere right now. I try to keep my days just sticking to my daily regimen. Just I try not to switch that up. And same goes for training too, or even competing. Is it okay if I say that I smoke weed? Is that chill?
Yeah, by all means.
Okay, I smoke weed. And same thing with training. Even up to Masters World, I didn't want to take anything out of my daily schedule, my daily regimen, to a point to where it didn't feel natural to me. So yeah, same thing with drinking coffee. Same thing with smoking weed every day. I do it from medicinal use, and also like helps with my anxiety that I do have, and also gets me in a really good mental space, like before and or after practice. The same thing with caffeine. But anyways, I try to keep my daily regimen, the same for as long as possible. So yeah, when it's training with, like if there's Master Worlds coming up, or even if I have like a super fight coming up, I'm gonna keep it as the same as possible. Or if anything, the only thing I am changing is just like ramping up my training sessions.
So my exposure to you is when I hit you up on Instagram was this super sick single leg defense that you have. Can you describe it? It looks like first of all, you let people, you're like, oh, you put the leg out there, like, you're gonna go for that single leg, and then you instantly invert into like a toe hold, knee bar, or a heel hook, right? You just get into that leg lock position. Like, how did you come up with that? Because it's like, I'm gonna try that, but I'm a little fat, so it might not work very well.
Yeah, so by the way, that move has been such an iconic thing, like in jiu-jitsu, and then also just in my life in general. Like that move spread quicker than COVID did. It was crazy. Anyways, yeah, so what I was thinking in that moment, it was at High Rollers Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu at the weed smoking tournament.
Yeah.
Shout out to High Rollers. So this guy, that was like the first 15 seconds of the match too. I'm feeling him out. My feet get all dirty, so I'm like wiping off my feet, trying to find a mat to like where I have good footing. And my goal was, I saw him leading with his front leg. I really wanted to go collar tie, ankle pick. So I was like, okay, I want that foot. So like while I'm prepping and I'm standing there, he had lanky arms, so he immediately just snatched that single. I was like, well, your foot's still there, so I want to attack it. So I've honestly never trained that move ever. I'm a reactive and counter fighter, wrestler. So when he took that leg, I was like, okay, well, I still want to attack that leg. So instinctually, I like pulled him in, and from there, I'm going to stand up and kind of give you an example. He also had my leg like this. You're missing out. So he had that single leg, and for some reason, I like put my leg in a little deeper, and I also used the weight off of his arms to propel me up and around, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So he had the single leg, I pulled in, and then I also jumped around and also attacked his foot. So when I went inverted, his foot was by my head like this, and I just snatched it. And from there, I was just thinking, like, okay, if the legs are in the middle of my legs, I could attack a knee bar. So I went for the knee bar. He ended up prying my knee open and ended up passing and coming around. I lost that match, which is crazy. But the craziest thing about that tournament is, like, I went 1-1 in Nogi, but I feel like I got the most like publicity off of just that single move, and I had no intentions of that at all. Legit, I was I was pissed off because I lost my match. I was like, yeah, obviously you sign up for a tournament, you want to win, and I just always have that like macho mentality. Oh fuck, win. So after that match, I actually had my opponent from my previous match record that. His name's Cameron. Shout out to Cameron. And I saw him. I was like, hey, can you film my matches for me? He's like, for sure. So after that, I lost that match. After the flying knee bar, I was at the gas station, gassing up, just about to drive back to San Diego. And I'm like, I was like, oh, that's a pretty cool move. Cut it, splice it. And my caption is, didn't win the tournament, but won some oohs and ahs. Let's run it. Posted it. Wake up the next morning, and one of my teammates from my old school was like, dude, this is going viral. By that time, I think it was like 8 a.m. It had like 8,000 views or something.
Wow.
And then throughout a week span, I counted up to 12 like jiu-jitsu pages. 5 or 6 of them had 20,000 views of them. Jiu-Jitsu Times had like 80,000 views.
Wow.
One of my friends was on Reddit. He's all, dude, you're on Reddit too. I'm all, what the fuck is going on? I'm at my job. What job was I working? I was working at Orange Theory Fitness. I'm all, what the fuck is going on? And just notification after notification. It's like, this got shared. This new follower. I'm all, oh my God, I'm going viral. What the fuck is going on? But yeah, it was such a weird thing because it was so instinctual, like in the moment, and it was just a reaction that I had. But anyways, going into it, I was like, I want an ankle pick, turned into a flying knee bar that went viral.
Yeah, that was super cool. What it reminds me of is, I'm pretty sure that's a single leg defense, right? In wrestling, not obviously going for the leg, but it is flipping over, turning, is it away from the body, right? When they grab that single leg and then kind of inverting to get it out of it, right? It's kind of like a limp arm, but with your leg. Yeah, like backflip out of it. One of my buddies, Jimmy House, actually had a video go viral, like, buff-ass bodybuilder guy was at a tournament in Arizona. The dude has a single leg on him, and he's hopping and just backflips out of it and gets a double leg off of it. Yeah, it is a defense too. Just I don't know what it's called, just like a backflip single. But I love just having that wrestling background. I know not a lot of jiu-jitsu fighters are gonna have higher level wrestling than me, unless like I know who they are, so I'll try to play with whoever I'm fighting. But yeah, I kind of try to bait people for single legs because I do have that counter where I have just about two counters. I could like scissor that far leg and sit and attack a knee bar, or I'll just turn away and roll through, which has been my favorite so far.
And looks good.
And it's been working, so.
Yeah, singles, doubles, they're definitely the bane of my existence. They're so easy, but coming into this when I was almost 40 years old, I was like, oh man, I just don't like doing anything like that with the knees. Like no, I was like, I'll pass.
Yeah, and it's such a weird thing. Like, I guess just with my confidence in my wrestling, if I don't get a takedown, I know I could for the most part scramble out, but I like when people do try to take me down because I do have I could sprawl decently, but also people aren't expecting that counter, like a roll through dive for like a leg, or even in wrestling, I would just, since wrestling you can't attack legs or anything, I would turn away as a counter, like for a single, and dive under their legs and come up for a takedown. So that's one of the moves that was kind of like an easy one for me in wrestling that translates really, really well for me in jiu-jitsu, where I can attack legs, like whether that's toe hold, knee bar, heel hooks.
So
it works.
You mentioned that you'll know if someone's a better grappler than you. Do you research your opponents before you go against them? I know when I was signing up for a competition, I was like, who are these people? Let me look them up on Instagram, like see who these people are. Do you do any research on who might be in your bracket?
I want to say no, but yeah, I do. Yeah. But that, because that also goes into like psyching yourself out, you know. But it is helpful. I don't want to say you shouldn't do it, but depending how your reaction is on how you take information, because in high school, that was my downfall. We had this thing, basically like a forum for like who's ranked in state, who's going to this tournament, and my high school always went to like the higher level wrestling tournaments that were like the hardest in the state. And then I would see like what schools are going to be there. I'm like, oh no, dude, we got Alex Cisneros in my weight class, like 3-time state champion in my bracket. Fuck, I got to wrestle this guy. And that I would always wrestle the name and not the guy in front of me. And that's what would mess me up all the time. So I feel like I'm better at that now, at least handling that information and having more confidence in my jiu-jitsu. I'm like, okay, like, and also like training at Autos, I feel like I got my ass whooped so hard, the hardest I'll probably ever get my ass whooped at an academy. I'm like, what's this person going to do that Ronaldo Jr. hasn't done to me, you know? But, yeah. So I guess like throwing myself in to the Shark Tank definitely boosted some confidence, especially now where I'm like, okay, like what's the worst that can happen that hasn't happened to me at Autos?
So you mentioned that you train at Autos. What was it like getting your purple belt from André Galvão?
Dude, fucking dream. Like, it was so surreal, man. Well, first of all, even like moving to San Diego to train at Autos and like legit first people I saw was Lucas Barbosa, Michael Oliveira Jr., Ronaldo Jr., André Galvão. I was like, dude, these are just... I was walking among legends. And then, yeah, just kind of was like a no one. I mean, I feel like anyone who walks in just like, oh shit, I'm starstruck and I'm in the Shark Tank. I could die any moment if I say the wrong thing here. And yeah, walked in and it was surreal. Like, to the point where I was like, damn, like I could only get good here. But anyways, like spent about 2 years at Autos, and then yeah, getting promoted by André Galvão was like Michael Jordan giving you, like if you're a basketball fan, if Michael Jordan giving you, I don't even know what to compare that to. It's like it's such a gnarly thing in my life, because even like when I started jiu-jitsu, I knew who André Galvão was. Like, just he's like one of the faces of jiu-jitsu, and I've also seen like technique videos like 3 years prior even me moving to San Diego. So like the fact that like when I started coming, when he noticed me, at least like whom, like he was like, oh, you're Jordan. I'm like, what's up? Yeah, that's me. And yeah, like we're like, oh, Jordan, what's up? I could be like, hey, André Galvão, ADCC world champion. How are you? Yeah, like I was definitely starstruck, but now like I know him like more on a personal level. I'm like, oh, you're my professor. What's up, dude? You're just one of the greatest of all times. But it was cool when I got promoted. It was like one of the surprise promotions, and he had 2 belts at them. He's like, all right, he's all, first guy, this guy likes doing backflips. I'm all, god damn it, that's me. What's up? And he's like, hey, works hard. He's all, and it's funny because my last name is Rabe, but you know, in Portuguese, they pronounce a lot of R's as like H's. He's all right, he's all, Jordan Rabe, come get your purple belt. I'm all, what the hell? I'm all, this is crazy. And then, yeah, he's like talking, takes my belt off, Taiji goes, okay, he's all, now do a backflip. I'm all, bet. I'll get backflip. And everyone's all, yeah. They didn't have me do a speech and stuff. And this is at like a month right before I moved to LA. So I like got to tell everyone that I was leaving and whatnot, and how special it was just to be in a room of, yeah, just like greatness. It's really, really interesting. My buddy Neil said it in like the best way possible. It's rare air. Like everyone, all the air that people's breathing there is just like, it's greatness. Like you walk in, and I feel like any white belt can walk in and be a world champion there. And also like, not only is like the jiu-jitsu is great, but everyone there is so damn nice. It's really, really cool. Like I didn't feel like ever like uncomfortable or like unfavored. Like everyone was really, really nice. Like it's in beautiful San Diego. Like what's there to be sad about there? You know what I mean? And also like have the best jiu-jitsu. And I feel like San Diego is just a hot house of so many good jiu-jitsu academies there. Like strength conditioning. I used to work out at Electrum Performance there, and they're training at like all the hottest MMA athletes, like who are in Bellator, UFC, like world champion jiu-jitsu players are there too. Yeah, I feel like just Autos in general, training under Andre, it's a dream come true. You know, you like feel like people go to like camps for basketball for like Michael Jordan. They go to like Woodward if they want to get good at skating. You go to Autos, you want to go get good at jiu-jitsu. You know, yeah, it's still a dream come true, if I could put it in words.
Now I wish I'd have dropped in there when we were down there.
Yeah, Chris, one of our buddies, he's a black belt, and he dropped in at Autos San Diego, and he said it was like he's like, even the blue belts there like are just absolutely insane. He's like, it was a great experience. He got to roll with Josh Hinner while he was there, and he met Andre also, and he's like, it was an amazing experience. He's like, honestly, it was expensive to drop in. He's all like, and you have to buy a gi because they don't let you wear any outside gis. He's like, but it was a great experience to go there and drop in every once in a while. So yeah. Now that you have your purple belt, what do you feel like your role inside your academy is? Like, do you help teach now, or are you still kind of just kind of like that blue belt mentality of like, I'm not supposed to teach, I'm like just here to learn also, and kind of help where I can without stepping on toes? Like, what's your mentality now in class that you're a purple belt? Do you skip warm-ups also?
For sure.
For sure you skip.
I feel like it's I feel like it's any upper belt's responsibility to, like, if you see something and you feel like it's within your realm to correct or say something, give someone a hand. I feel like I was kind of doing that at blue belt in some cases, but it's because for the most part, I love teaching wrestling stuff. And like when it comes to takedowns, position, off balancing, whatever. But yeah, as a purple belt now, especially if I understand the technique and if it's especially in my game, and it also helps me learn it as well. Like I feel like I could watch a technique, drill it a few times, and I could understand it and understand the mechanics and the result to get to whatever position we need to be in. But with that being said, as a purple belt now at my academy especially, I am pretty involved. Not teaching. I got into like photography and filming like about 3-4 years ago. So as of right now, I do some like content for them, whether that's pictures, but I do film technique videos. So I'm there every time they do a technique, press record, put it away, start drilling with my partner, or like do like a one guy in, one guy out, like 3-person drill. And typically with like people my rank or like lower belts, because I do find joy in like also teaching too. And that is, I did tell my professors at some point, like I would like to help out with whatever classes need that, I guess that teacher in there. But I feel like I am naturally just someone who likes helping out people and also love teaching jiu-jitsu in general. But yeah, I feel like if you guys see, like I guess for instance, if you do see some technique that you are comfortable, like, hey, De La Hiva, grab the pant, don't grab the ankle, or grab the ankle, don't grab the pant, or put your hook in a little bit deeper. If it's with good intention, why not?
Yeah, so what we'd like to ask this question to everyone that comes on the show, because our show is really based around trying to document and find that common ground for people that are first starting training jiu-jitsu, because we felt like there wasn't a whole lot of content out there a couple of years ago when we started this podcast on, you know, the daily struggles of being a white belt or even starting jiu-jitsu. So if you could give one piece of advice to a white belt, what would it be? Brand new white belt.
Have fun. That's the thing. Yeah, have as much fun as you can, and I guess also like seek out, find a style that, or find like a group of fighters that you really like to watch, and that you like that's like pleasing to you. Then search their techniques, try to learn those sets, and then I feel like you'll start finding the game that you like to play, and whatever's like, if it's comfortable for you to play too. Obviously you don't want, I feel like if you're like a bigger jiu-jitsu fighter, watch bigger jiu-jitsu fighters if it's applicable to your body type. Or fucking watch Mendes Brothers, see if you can berimbolo and take backs if you can. If it works for you, try it out. Also, try out as many styles as you can to find whatever you want to succeed in. For instance, I had a wrestling background, so I was like, okay, I don't watch some dudes who are more top players, who are guard passers, which is why I gravitated towards André Galvão. Like, dude is tough on top, but also has a great guard. And I feel like, going to Autos, I feel like I got to drop my wrestling a little bit and learn bottom game, learn how to play De La Hiva, learn how to play reverse De La Hiva, crab ride, single leg X, eventually to get the back, which is, like I said, that's my favorite place to be. But soak in as much as you can, drill as much as you can, keep showing up too, and have fun.
Well, Jordan, this was a blast, man. Thank you so much for giving us your time. I know you got to head off to work and make a bunch of delicious espressos for everyone. Some lattes.
Yeah,
make some art with it, like some flowers.
That's
and
right. I call them milk doodles. It's called latte art, but I call them milk doodles.
So if people want to follow you and see this dope-ass single leg defense that we're talking about, so they can and try it in their class, where can everyone find you? And also, if you want to drop your clothing line, by all means.
Yeah, you can find me on Instagram, Certified Latte Boy, BOI. My name is Jordan Rabe, Rabe, and also coffee apparel brand Hot Glory. I got the beanie, got this windbreaker. Also got some cool cards. That's we call this the struggling artist. Anyways, this is my clothing brand. Follow us on Instagram at Hot Glory. This might be backwards, but certified latte boy, and my buddy Chris McCall, the coffee warlock. Also, coffee shop, Little Lunch Coffee in Venice Beach, California. If you're ever in the area, come on by. I'll pour you some milk doodles, like I said. And we can talk jiu-jitsu too.
All right, Jordan.
Also,
Thank you for...
check out this little cup. It's my Autos branded.
Dang, is that leather?
Wow, look at that.
Yeah.
Dang, custom, baby. We have to get an elbows tight one like that.
Right. Ooh, that'd be good.
I'll
connect you with my friend who did this for me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, Jordan. Well, thank you so much, man. We greatly appreciate you coming on the show today. It was a blast. Love hearing your mindset and everything like that, especially your background and how you're going through your jiu-jitsu journey. So thank you for that. John, you got anything else?
No, man. Thanks for the interview, and I think you put out a lot of good tips on people that want to compete.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you guys want to check them out, there goes all the social media. Everything will be down in the description below. And remember, no oil checks here.
No oil checks here.
No. Oh, guys. All right, I'll catch you later. Thanks.